You are listening to This is Oklahoma, hosted by Mike Hearn, telling stories of Oklahomans and those that have made it their home.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of This is Oklahoma Podcast. Mike Hearn here, your host, back with another episode. Excited to share this episode with you today, but before we do, I've got to thank our sponsors. First of all, the Oklahoma Hall of Fame. They've been a huge part of this podcast for the last few years. So the Oklahoma Hall of Fame have been sharing Oklahoma's story through its people since 1927. For more information on the Oklahoma Hall of Fame, go to www.oklahomahof.com. And for daily updates, go to oklahomahof on Instagram and give them a follow. Our other sponsor today is the Chickasaw Nation. Now, the Chickasaw Nation have sponsored pretty much everything in Oklahoma. They're a huge supporter of Oklahoma, and it's an honor to have their name and their brand supporting this podcast. A huge shout out to Governor Anatobi for supporting this podcast. It really means a lot. Our third sponsor is Diffie Ford Lincoln down in El Reno. Now, this one makes me so happy because these guys are great friends of mine, play a lot of golf together. I've bought my cars from them, do most of my oil changes down there, have a cup of coffee, hang out down in El Reno. It's a good spot to go. And not only are they great friends, but they provide a great service. So for over 60 years, third generation family owned Oklahoma business down in El Reno. They're also in Bethany as well. So people in the Bethany area know the Diffies really well. But if you're looking for anything new, used, Ford, Lincoln, or whatever, I'm sure they could find anything you want. Check them out, diffieford.net, and then on Instagram at diffiefordlincoln.
This episode is presented by Citizens Bank of Edmond. Citizens Bank of Edmond has been serving Edmond since 1901. They pride themselves on investing in the community and are here for all your personal and business banking needs. For more information, go to mycitizens.bank and follow them on Instagram at citizensedmond, as well as go bank there, because I bank there too. It's been a fantastic personal experience for me. I've had my podcast account there now, my podcast business account there now for 4 years now, I think, and it's been fantastic. So definitely worth your time. They're a great group of people, and they're always there to answer the phone when I forget my password, because I seem to forget it daily. So yeah, go to Citizens Edmond and check them out. It's been awesome.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of This is Oklahoma. Mike Hearn here, host, back with another episode. Got a local running legend on the podcast. I'm going to talk a lot about running leading up to Memorial Marathon. Gives me great pleasure to introduce John Gignac to the podcast.
Yo, thanks, Mike.
Sure.
Glad to be here.
Yeah, I mean, we sat down, a month ago to do your Beer Hop podcast with the boys?
We had you on the Beer Hop podcast. It was cool, man. We talked a lot about podcasts, a little bit about beer. It was good stuff.
Yeah, it's like I think I told your other John this too. It's like I don't get to do that very often. It's just to sit and hang out with guys and chat and have a podcast that way. And it was so refreshing to do that. Loved it. So yeah, for everyone listening, go listen to the Beer Hop podcast. Literally learn about local beer and go to the app, right? Beer Hop app that you guys have. But yeah, I think we first met probably just in and around the running space, Red Coyote stuff.
Yes, sir.
You're obviously a local legend in the running world, and people know you.
I don't know about that.
Thank you. Monday Miles and all the stuff you guys have done.
Yeah.
Before we dive into the running stuff, though, let's build some context, man. What's your story? Where were you born and raised?
I was born in Warren, Ohio in 1986. I don't remember Ohio much at all. We lived we lived in a trailer, I think, and then my dad was in the Marines, and I don't remember Ohio. I remember moving to Laredo, Texas, kind of in the early 90s, and then the entire 90s was in Laredo. And then at the year 2000, we moved to North Carolina. And so most of my upbringing, I feel like most of my formidable years were in North Carolina, Winston-Salem, Kernersville, and then I went to college at App State in Boone.
Okay.
And then, I was in college for a long time, just floundering and enjoying myself for about 6 years. And then I just basically I couldn't take out any more college loans. And so I had to do something. So I enlisted in the Air Force, took the first job I could get that I was qualified for off the ASVAB test. And it was like a flying position on the AWACS. And that brings you to, if you go through AWACS, you're inevitably going to end up in Oklahoma City, at Tinker Air Force Base. And so, then I was at Tinker.
Wow.
And I got out in like 2016, but I've stuck around. I tried to leave when I got out. I was trying to, maybe migrate up to Colorado, but plans changed, and Oklahoma's been really great, and I've enjoyed going on. Like, I got here in August 2011, which we talked about on the Beer Hop podcast.
The same
time. We might have been, might have been almost like the same. Might have been the same day, but I feel like it was definitely around the same week.
Yeah.
That we arrived here, but I've enjoyed watching the city grow, and it's changed, and it's been awesome to experience.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I got like established roots here over like 13 years. You really your roots start to really take hold. And so it'd be hard to, sometimes I think about leaving, but it'd be really hard to leave, honestly. And I do love it here. So
yeah, no, we're totally the same on that, right? Like, it's amazing how like parallel those experiences are, getting here and the city being super young. And I still remember like hitting golf balls in first practice session at college, looking at Lake Havana, looking down at downtown, seeing cranes around Devon Tower.
Yeah, I remember that too.
Right?
I got off of my first sergeant picked me up from the Will Rogers, and even the airport was different back then. But I remember driving down 40 and coming up on the city and seeing, Devon still had the cranes up at the top. And it's so much more has developed since then. It's crazy.
Yeah. App State, that's where Luke Combs went.
Luke Combs,
right?
Man, App State, I don't know. I feel like Luke Combs is from North Carolina, but
did he
go to App State? That's amazing.
That's the only reason I was like, I've heard of that before. Luke Combs went to App State.
I know Rainbow Kitten Surprise is from App State. I don't know if you know about that band.
I do not. Let's see how old Luke Combs is. I don't know.
He's probably my age.
So that would have been funny if you're in school with Luke Combs.
Dude, that's ringing bells now. Like, not I didn't know Luke Combs, but now I feel like my friends talk about like
he's 34.
34. Okay, so he would have missed me a little bit.
You a little bit.
That's cool, man.
North Carolina's beautiful.
North Carolina is amazing. And if I did move, that would be somewhere I would consider going back, just because I still got a lot of friends and family there. And North Carolina is I always say it's like the most beautiful mountains and the best beaches on the East Coast, like both of them. So it's got everything.
So you said like dad was a Marine.
Yes, sir.
So obviously you grew up like that's in the family.
Yep.
Did you not want to go to? It was like the last resort for you.
Oh man, so Marines. I wanted to go. Like honestly, growing up, you get put on those like at a real young age in like middle school or elementary school. You get put in those like college bound groups and all that, and like. So I just always like assumed I was, you just as a kid, you just assume you're supposed to go and all your friends are going to go. And like, but I never really like aspired to be like anything like, I never had like serious aspirations to do stuff, like I didn't want to be like a fireman or a teacher or a doctor or a lawyer or something. So it was always kind of like, well, I'm going to go to college and figure it out. I was originally going for elementary ed. And then, like I said, I kind of floundered a lot in college. I like bounced around majors a lot and did like psychology and sociology to the point where like I never finished any of them. But I have like so many credits, but it was like, never finished. In the Air Force, I was able to like put some of the college to good use. But so I didn't know what I wanted to do. My sophomore year in college at App State, I did. Because of my dad and his guidance and everything, I considered going to the Marines, and I was doing a officer candidate school, and I applied for that, and I got in. And kind of leading up to that, so basically officer candidate school, you would go the summer after your sophomore year for 6 weeks, and then you would go again the summer of your senior year, or maybe the next summer, the summer of your junior year, and you'd complete it. And then when you graduate college, you would commission. But leading up to that summer, I was like basically kind of having like a meltdown. Like I was like, I don't know if this is really what I want to do. Like I started to freak out a little bit. And I actually was like, I withdrew. And I remember getting a lot of flack from like the recruiter. Like first he would be like, he was like Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde. He was like, first he was like, oh, like, trying to give me a pep talk that I could do it. And then I was like, firm no. Like, and then he was like flipping out at me, calling me like names and all this stuff. And then he would like reel it back in and like try to woo me in again. And my dad was like, no, you're not like obligated to go. Like, since you haven't been at all, you have no obligation. Like you can pull out. And he's like, just stand firm on your, and man, I kind of honestly, like a lot of what he was saying, like got to me a little bit. Like I was like, had a little bit of problems where like I was like, man, I feel like I really let everyone down or something. But I mean,
well, I mean, it sounds like your dad had your back anyway, and was just like, you make this decision or whatever it is, you stand by it, and that's kind of like the rules to live by, I guess. But it could have been different if your dad was like, no, you should probably do this as well.
Yeah.
Just like on your back for it. But.
My dad is really cool, man. He's like he's always like he was a diehard Marine in my younger, like when I was younger. I feel like after 9/11, he was gone a lot when I was in high school, and then when he came after all of that, he became a little less like hardcore. He was a little more of a, I don't know, there's like life perspective change, but I don't want to call him a softie, but he was like
something changed.
He was a little less intimidating and everything after that. But he's always wanted his kids, he's always said like the military is a good life. Like it offers a lot of good things. And so I don't think he was ever really like, y'all have to be Marines, but I think he just wanted us to, the Air Force worked for me when I ended up enlisting. Yeah. Two of my other brothers are in the Navy now still, one enlisted and one officer out in San Diego. But the funny part was like, I think from there's 6 of us, and my oldest brother, all the way down to my youngest brother, I think
boys?
Well, I have one sister, so 4 brothers, 1 sister. Okay. But every single one of us kind of went through a phase where we almost became a Marine, and none of us ended up, like every single one except for my brother Zach went through, so even my sister, we all went through the almost joining the Marines, and then we ended up not doing it. But he still got like 3 of 3 in military. Yeah. But he had like requirements, like all of his sons were, the main thing was like you be an Eagle Scout and you go to college. So we all did that.
That's cool.
Some of us did better in college, not me, but my other brothers did good, but yeah, he got all Eagle Scouts too, so that's cool.
Yeah. What do you remember about that time then around 9/11 when your dad's in the military? Like, did he go to war? Is he overseas?
Yeah, he was overseas a lot afterwards. So he was in like Desert Storm in the early 90s, which I don't remember. He was gone a lot then too, but I don't remember as much. But then I was in high school during 9/11. And after I was a sophomore, and then after that, he was gone a lot intermittently through my junior and senior years. Mm-hmm. And that was kind of a weird time. Like I remember it being just kind of, my older brother was already in college. He actually never lived with us in North Carolina, so he ended up going to Texas A&M because he was graduated in Laredo. Yeah. So I was the oldest at that time with my family, and I just remember, going through the high school years, I was making new friends, and also like it was just kind of like my mom's just doing her best with all of the other kids, and there was like not a lot of like, we had rules, but there was like also like not a lot of structure. It was kind of the Wild West in a sense. Yeah. Like high school was some fun times. I don't know, it just seemed crazy looking back on it, but
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, you just do, obviously you're there to support mum and get by, right? And
right.
Just like, there's a general understanding of like, don't do anything really stupid, but just keep yourself alive and don't be an idiot.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Like, grow up a little bit, have some awareness, and realize that like, dad's overseas, like risking his life.
Yeah, exactly. And looking back too, like looking back on my mom, like my mom was just a straight badass to be able to, like being 38 now, I think I'm about the same age as my mom was during that 9/11, like within the same time frame that she would have been in the early 2000s. And I'm like, I'm thinking about how busy things get in my life. And I'm like, my mom had 6 or like 5 kids at that point, like with my other brother gone. I'm like, that was bonkers. Like, I don't know how she was doing a lot of that when my dad was gone. Like, there was no time in her day, I feel like. And so, yeah, that's something I really respect, and that's really awesome. But
what do you think about that when you come to Oklahoma City, or I guess before you're in, you go to the Air Force? Like, remind me, where were you before you came to Oklahoma City, or was it like?
Before I came to Oklahoma City, I left Boone in about 2000. It would have been 2010. Yeah. And then I was back living with my family again, back in my house for like not quite a year, and I was working in a job that I used to do in the summers when I was in college, but it was like a electrical was like a manufacturing electrical. We'd make circuit boards like on a production line. Like it almost smelled like a
soldering and whatever.
Yes, exactly. Soldering and like, people would smoke in there. It was crazy. It almost feels like it was wild, man. Like I was doing that job on like a production line, just like you have like a punch card with a clock. I was doing that. And at that time, I remember like my other brother was working there with me too. And my mom even worked there for a little bit. And so it was kind of wild, man. We were all there together. I was only there for like, before the Air Force, I was only back in Kernersville, North Carolina for about like, I want to say like 6 or 8 months. And then getting the ball rolling to go into the Air Force, not knowing where I was going to go yet.
Right.
But in the Air Force, and the way it happened with Oklahoma was like, in the Air Force, you take that ASVAB test and you get some scores. And I thought like, I had like pretty good scores for the ASVAB test. I think just based on like being in college for so long and stuff. So like I had really pretty good pick for my jobs. And like I heard like flyer jobs or like when you're a flyer, like aviation in the Air Force is like good to be, just really good jobs. So I was like, I picked that one with the AWACS. And I remember going through basic training and you're in San Antonio and like everyone starts getting, you get these sheets where you can pick all the places you want to go. And I remember being like, oh, this is exciting. But then with my job, I only got 4 places to pick. And it was like Oklahoma, Georgia, Kadena in Japan, or like Anchorage. And so in my mind, I was like, Anchorage in Japan, this is amazing.
Done. Yeah.
But little did I know that with like AWACS, it's like, you're not going to go to those places unless, at least at that time, you're not going to go to those places unless you have like more time in service. So it was like, you're either going to go to Georgia or Oklahoma.
Yeah.
But even, I'm like easily excitable. So I'm like, a new place, this is going to be cool, Yeah. And at that time, all I knew of Oklahoma was like tornadoes. And then I knew about like the thunder, like Westbrook and Durant. So I was like, this is cool. I remember asking my instructor in San Antonio, because she was from Oklahoma, I'm like, what do people do about tornadoes? Like, it was perplexing to me. I was like, how do people live? Yeah. And she was just like, they just live. Like, what do you mean? She looked at me like I'm an idiot. And I'm like,
sit on their back porch and watch it.
Tornadoes? Like, really? Like, what about when it destroys everything? And they're like, they just rebuild. And I was like, dang, that's crazy. I was like, wow.
Yeah, like she's like, what are you expecting me to say?
Yeah, I was like, I don't know. Do they migrate? Like, do they move to a different, But I'm like, she's like, no, they just rebuild. And I was like, I can't imagine.
This is insane.
It's baffling. Yeah.
God, I can't imagine what that was like, right? You go from North Carolina and it's beautiful, then you come to Oklahoma. It's kind of similar to me too, right? Because it's like, you got mountains and beautiful stuff.
Yeah, Wales is like gorgeous.
Yeah, for the most part, when the sun's out, it is, And then you come here and you're like, that's not a mountain, that's a hill.
Yeah.
And it's a trash hill, right?
Yeah.
Like, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
What's that like when you're like, oh, I get through basic, I'm good, I'm going to work, I've got a career now, I'm going to Oklahoma City. Yeah, I'm just like, I was kind of like, damn, and then, but I made the most of it. When I got to Tinker, I was excited. I was on my own. I was like, it was like, I seemed like I felt like I was making like life moves, and it was like cool. And the AWACS was like wild too, because like when I got on the airplane, like I'm not someone who's like, I get kind of airsick, and then so like a couple years later, like 2013 or something, my first deployment, and I'm like flying sorties, and like I'm in the back of the jet. I'm not flying an airplane, but like, I'm back there like, and I just have these moments where I'd be like, how did am I here in this airplane, like overseas, like flying around, doing what I'm doing here? I'm like, this is bizarre. Like, because back to being in high school, like I never had these like big aspirations. All I ever liked to do was run, and I like to run and be with my friends, and like those are my passions, like movies. And so all those things, if you tell adults at that time that you're like, I love movies and running and like I love hanging out with my friends, are just like, no, you have to have like something like legit. You have to have a career. You have to have like right. You're like, okay, Forrest.
You're like, what do you really want to do? And I'm like, I don't know, like something.
Can I not just watch movies and run?
Yeah, it's like I just want to do the things I want. I just want to do what I want. I don't know what that is, but
dude, people listening to that, like me too. I want to do what I want.
Yeah.
Like, the longer we can keep doing that, the better off we'll be.
For sure.
I say that with asterisks.
Yeah.
So you just mentioned you went out. You started. You got here August 2011. 2 years later, you're on deployment.
Yeah.
Where do you go?
We would go to United Arab Emirates, and then so that's where I was. I was over in like Abu Dhabi and Dubai area, which is not bad, you know.
No.
But that's like, you know, that's kind of like where we would, because the AWACS, you know, you're like flying all over the place. So yeah.
Would you just jump on the plane and fly AWAC all the way? Or do you like fly out normally and then you jump on the plane when you're out there?
Yeah, we flew out there like sort of like on a commercial sort of thing, and then we and then once you're out there, you have like sort of a schedule and a grind that you have, and it was like 6 months the first. I did 2, and I did like a 6 month and a 5 month. The 6 month was wild, you know, because that was another thing where you're just like, man, 6 months at that time. Being now 10 years later or so, I'm thinking like 6 months flies by, you know, like nothing. But back in my 20s, like, and I was there like 20, like my late 20s even, like 6 months felt like a huge chunk of your life, you know. It felt like a big old chunk. And but it was cool. Like deployed life was really cool. Like looking back, it was hard when I was there, but looking back, I look back on it fondly, and like it was really good times and good memories and a lot of great people. That's one thing I miss about the military or the Air Force the most, would just be some of my like, a lot of my friends and people, and in the military, people don't stay anywhere for long. They're always like, so a lot of the people that I was in the Air Force with, like, have gone on, moved in separate directions, and
What I mean, were you able to kind of like explore, travel, ride a camel? Like, what were you doing in Dubai?
My first deployment, I was a little disgruntled because, you know, we could, there was Dubai Marathon going on at the time. And I remember being like, you'd have these days of a couple days where you wouldn't be doing, you'd just be there, like, you know, working out, killing time. And then you'd get on your flight schedule and you'd fly. And I remember being off for the Dubai Marathon. But for whatever reason, I think maybe someone had gotten in trouble off base, and so there were some rules at that time that had us on lockdown. Just timing happened to be when I was there, and so I remember being there, and I couldn't go do the Dubai Marathon, and I was like, I don't know, when I like Dubai, but realistically, there's so many places I want to go in the world that, like, I'm not going to go back to Dubai. Like, that'd be very low on my list. It's very cool, but like, I would just like, there's a million other places I want to see on the world, so I don't see myself ever going back there. So I look at that one kind of like, dang, I missed that cool opportunity. But
it's also going to change, like, between 10 years ago to now. I mean, that city's like changed so much.
Right.
Well. I mean, they have so much money. They make it rain every day at 4:00. Right?
Yeah.
Like, they just do it.
And they're building all those like futuristic buildings, and they just had Dubai Marathon just happened here recently, and it actually was the highest. It broke New York City's record for the most, like, the largest marathon ever in the world.
Why I would never would have guessed that.
I think everything in Dubai and United Arab Emirates, they just go, like, they want everything, they want to go big on everything, right? Like, everything they want it to be the biggest in the world, and But just recently that broke New York City's record. And New York City, I think, had like the top 3, like, most participants, like, in marathons over several years. But Dubai actually now has that record.
Have you done New York yet?
I've done New York 3 times.
Okay.
Yeah, New York's awesome.
We'll get into that in a little bit. Any more deployments since then?
No, after that one, I just did another one. I came back for a year, and then I went on another deployment. And it was essentially the same thing. It was funny. Like, I went back, and I ended up being in the exact same container. We lived in like shipping containers with like air conditioning and stuff. And I was in the exact same shipping container on my second deployment as I was on the first one, in my exact same bed and room and everything. So it was just like a year away, and then come back, and I was back in the same routine. The mission, like, everything had kind of changed at that time, like what we were doing over there, but like it was still, you know, same routine mostly for a deployment. But
so when do you when do you get out and decide that I want to stay in Oklahoma City?
I did a 1 year. I had originally signed up for the 4 years, and I did a 1 year extension. So I was in for 5 years in the Air Force. I did a 1 year extension because you could do 4 or 6 initially. I did 4, and did a 1 because I didn't really know, like, if I wanted to. I was kind of on the fence if I wanted to stay in or get out. I decided to get out. I just felt like I wasn't in like a good headspace, and I was going through some stuff. And then, so I got out, and when you get out of the Air Force, the military is really cool about like they really want to get you prepared to get out because it's a transition. Okay. You don't think like in 4 years you develop all these habits and you have all these like you expect things a certain way, and there's like even coming back from a deployment. In my deployment, I feel like weren't as hard of a deployment as it's a sacrifice because you're away from home.
Right.
But I know like other branches have like way tougher deployment settings. Like ours was pretty great, honestly.
Relaxed, yeah. Pretty
relaxed. And, but even that, you come back and there's like these weird things that just like something like, like standing in lines is weird, and you have to get used to that again. Or like little stupid things that are like very trivial that aren't anything, but you get kind of like agitated, like, oh my God, like what is, like what's going on? Like it used to be, because in the military it's like way more orderly.
Or people being rude.
Yeah, exactly. So you're just kind of like, okay, like you got to get used to that. But so the military does a great job at like getting you prepared to get back into the world, and like they want you to have kind of savings, and you have like a plan. You're supposed to have like a whole like plan when you get out. So I had this whole plan, and I had even a backup plan for that. And then when I got out, within like 6 months, the first plan was upside down, and then the other plan was also like really quickly. The backup plan was not structurally sound. Really quickly fell apart. So my move and like my all the things I kind of wanted to do like didn't really happen. But I was fortunate enough to have like really great community from the years I'd already been in Oklahoma, and I was able to like find work, and I still had like really great friends around me. I've always been, in my life, I feel like I've always been blessed with like, I've had great people around me. Yeah. And so I was able to kind of like stay afloat. I ended up staying back and I worked in a food truck for a little bit, Snow S'more, with my friend Leo and Allison, and that was really fun.
Do they still have that?
They do. I feel so bad. I needed it.
It was an Airstream, wasn't it?
Yeah, they had that. Yeah. It was an awesome Airstream, man. It was really cool. They still have the Airstream. I still see them pop up every once in a while, but I know that I think Leo and Allison are trying to open up like I don't want to say this on the pod if I'm wrong, but I think they
open up a brick and mortar.
I think they're trying to do the brick and mortar last time I talked to them.
Yeah. Nice.
But then I worked in that for a little bit, and then I was able, I started working at Red Coyote, and then that was really great. And then during all that time in the Air Force and stuff, I think like first thing I got to Oklahoma was like I had to find my running environment, had to find my running peeps when I got here. And Red Coyote had opened within within a year or so of it was still a very new store when I got to Oklahoma. Yeah. And I remember finding the website, and then started going to the pack pint runs, and I met John and Burke and John's brother Jeff. They were some of my first friends here in Oklahoma. So I can remember back to those early days, but they were able to I started working at the store after the food truck, and it was really great. Mm-hmm. And then I met John through the Energy FC somewhere along the way too. And then John made me that offer a couple years ago, and worked with him for last 4 years, and now back at Red Coyote.
Yeah. Dude, all right, let's talk about the running then, because you just you referenced, obviously, kind of that, you kind of find your group, you find your core, these are my people, right, when you get to Oklahoma. But obviously running is a core need and love of yours from a very young age.
Right.
Where did it start?
Where did I start?
Yeah, when does running start? Because it's not when you're a kid, you're playing soccer, you're playing football, you're playing baseball, whatever. Not a lot of people, I don't think.
Yeah, I liked all those sports growing up. I did play. I liked outside of running, I really liked basketball. And I remember in high school at one point, I sprained my ankle, and my track coach got mad at me, and then I stopped playing basketball. And sometimes I look back and I'm I wish I would have kept playing because I like it. But now when I play, I feel so weird. My body feels so awkward. But track and running, or not track, but running, cross country and track and stuff. Running really started back when I was probably 9 or 10.
Okay.
And my dad, it was when we still lived in Laredo, and my dad, being a Marine, was always waking up, doing the PT, always staying ready for his tests and just staying in shape. And I remember my brother was in high school and he played football, and my older brother was a phenomenal athlete. Could do every sport. And but he's in high school. He doesn't want to get up at 5 a.m. to run with my psycho Marine dad, right? You know what I mean? So he's like, I felt bad for my dad. Like I kind of felt bad. And so like, I just kind of volunteered, and then my dad would wake me up and we'd go out running like every day when I was young. And when I did play other sports outside of that, I was always able to like I could always fall back on running, and that like it would make up for my lack of skills because I could run. So like that always kind of helped me. And I think I ran my first half marathon was when I was like also like that same year, like 10 or 11. Some people would say that was too young, but back then that was never like, no one was talking about that. And I don't think it was too young because I'm still running and I feel good.
Yeah.
But we ran this cool marathon in Laredo, Texas, and it literally ran across the border. So it started in Laredo and it ran into Mexico. It finished in Mexico. So like that was my first half marathon ever, my longest distance. And then, and then I just, I ran all through high school and I really loved it. I feel like I always loved it more than everyone else around me. And I was pretty diehard about it. And then, but it was one of those things where like, I was always like pretty good, but I was never like, I'm never like the fastest guy anywhere. So like, but I just really love it. And that's always, I think what's gotten me is just like my passion for it. And how running is like, just cause you don't get first, it like the measure of success is way different in running, like if I got like 8th place in conference meet, I was like, that's very good. But like, that's not like it's not like anything to like, no one would understand. Like you didn't win, like what, but yeah, so kept running and running. So in a sense, like running for me has always been like my lifeline. That's where I find my community. That's what helps me get, that's always like my advantage. Like even in the Air Force, like I feel like running afforded me some cool opportunities because just doing good in running and the PT test like put me in opened some doors in other areas for me. So that was cool.
Yeah.
And I've just been doing it ever since, man.
It's kind of special to have those like running with dad.
Yeah.
Right. You look back, you're like, at the time you're like, yeah, this is cool. And, and I'm like, you might have felt bad that your older brother wouldn't go. So you're like, I'll do it. But when you look back, you're like, so fortunate to have those moments.
Yeah, it was cool, man.
Right?
Yeah, very fond memories of that with my dad. Yeah.
What's kind of like? What was the workouts? I mean, is dad going out? Like, is he doing just 4 miles every day and then hitting?
He was doing like
push-ups.
He was always getting ready. Yeah, we would do push-ups and stuff after because it was always for the Marine fitness test. So it was like we were always doing kind of that. So we would run 3 miles usually, and then we would run 3 miles pretty much every day, and then we would run this 10K. Every once in a while, like the turkey trot and we built on those days, we'd do like a 10K. But I remember being like, the philosophy back then with my dad, it was like, you run, you conserve your energy, and then you do these like all out, like near the end, you just do this like all out push. That was kind of how we trained when I was a kid. That's all I remember. It wasn't anything complicated or anything super methodical or anything. It was like very much like, you run, and then when you're near the end, you just go like as hard as you got. Yeah. So like I remember even where I lived in Laredo, like the little block, like the finish where we would like really start to haul ass and whatever. And I remember being like where I would really try to beat my dad, and I think he was always just letting me. But like I remember like when I first started I'm like trying so hard, and like he lets me edge ahead of him. So it was like, I mean that was cool.
That is cool, right? And also like it's not now to us who you run a lot more than I do, but even for me who's just kind of still early in my running, like 3 miles is just like, oh, I'm just gonna go run 3 miles.
Yeah.
Whereas someone listening to this could be like, 3 miles, man, I can't even do 100 meters.
Yeah.
But when you do that reps and you build up, you're like, oh, it's it's 30 minutes or it's 20 minutes, whatever it is now. Like I got to do 4 miles today, and it's not even a thought.
Yeah, you're just like, that's like an easy day, right?
Yeah. But it's interesting that like you didn't, the 10K was I guess the most you guys did. You didn't really, and obviously you build up to the half marathon, but people listening, like it doesn't have to be 10K every day and like a half marathon on the weekend.
No.
Just get your run in. Because I know you've been keeping up. I mean, you're kind of going on how many days now, running every day? Yeah,
I got a streak that I started in December of 2020, and so I think I'm coming up on 1,200 days. I think I'm like 1160 something, I believe. Every once in a while, I like check back in and I update it and I see where I'm at. But yeah, I've run every day for like over 3 years now, and I haven't been injured. I've been sick a couple times, but I've got it done. On days where I would take the day off, I only go out and run like 10 to 15 minutes.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
a mile and a half, 2 miles, whatever.
Yeah, so it's like, you can take a day off, and there is a lot to be said for like getting rest, and so I try to do that. But if I'm able to get a good night's sleep and get meals in, and then I run an easy day of like 10 to 15 minutes on days where I really just don't want to get out and do it, I think it has like a lot of, it's good for me discipline wise.
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot of benefits to that. But then, it's fun just been compounding on it. It's been cool. So, yeah.
What do you kind of touched on it briefly earlier of like what running does for you? Let's dive into that. Like mental headspace, fitness. Like, I mean, running's such a, if your body can do it, most people after they blow their knees out or they don't think they can do running anymore, they go to cycling, all right? Or they'll migrate to something, which is great. And it's aerobic fitness. Whatever. But I mean, for someone who's been running since, they were 9 years old, like, what does running do for you? And how has that evolved over the time?
Shoot, man. I'll say like, so off and on through my life when I've struggled with running, it's more so, it's not burnout of running. It's usually I know like what you just said, kind of like a lot of people like to run to relieve stress or get in a good headspace. I was finding a lot of times in certain little chunks of my life, like what I would notice for myself was like I would have a hard time running when I wasn't in a good headspace. And that was when I would have a hard time getting out, or I would take considerable time off if I was struggling like in my head. So I couldn't go out and run if I had like it wasn't like I was relieving stress. It was like more like it would almost be compounded stress. So the thing with getting back to the streak, I feel like the streak is kind of helps me take that edge off where I'm like focused on this other side goal of like keeping the streak alive. And that way I can get out still, even if I'm not in a good headspace. It's kind of helping me develop like, okay, now I can run to relieve some stress because I'm actually doing it not to relieve stress, but to keep the streak alive. It's like a separate goal. If I'm doing it to be like, I need to get out and like, and it does relieve stress, even if I don't think it is, like it's doing other things chemically for you. But I don't know if that answered the question. Yeah.
The other question I had too is kind of parallel to this. Is like, what does running mean to you?
Oh man, that's tough. For me, it's just like I said earlier, it's definitely like a lifeline. For me, it's like church. It's like it's kind of like my community. It's my escape, sanctuary. But also like it's not just an escape too. Like I want to have it where it's like. I want to help others find it too, and like have and build on that community aspects that I love about it, which has been able to do like at Mint with Monday's Miles, and then working at a running store like Red Coyote, which is all about like community centric, and then even like my smaller group of friends that I run with in the mornings, like. When I can get up. I'm not the best morning person.
Early.
But
Luis is one of those. Yeah. Shout out Luis.
Yeah, shout out Luis. Man, Luis is so consistent. That guy like has like he's very like he's strict. Like he's doing the same like blocks every week, like to the T.
Does not surprise me.
He's a workhorse, man. I love that guy. But yeah, so yeah, what is it to me? I mean, like it's so much. Like it's very too, it's really at this point in my life, I used to be like my younger days when people would bring up running to me and you just be like, he's that runner guy or whatever. I was kind of like, well, I like a lot of stuff because I do. Like I'm into a lot of stuff besides running. But at this point now, almost being 40, and I'm still been doing it. At this point, it is very much ingrained into my being. So like I try not to like duck away from that. I can still be like, I still have a lot of interests outside of running and a lot of passions, but now I'm not so much like skeptical about it being like the one thing that defines me. I know it's not the only thing, but it is definitely a huge part of the definition of myself. Yeah,
it makes a lot of sense, right? You can take a lot of kind of pride and confidence knowing that, like, running it's a huge passion of mine. I love to do it. People know me for that. Yeah. But also because deep down that it doesn't define you, there's a lot of like stress relief there as well. And
for sure.
You love other things. You mentioned movies earlier and other, obviously you got the dogs and all the other stuff.
Oh, my
too.
dogs, yes.
Yes,
sir.
That's a huge thing too. But when does it start getting like going from, I guess, I love running to fitness to like, I'm going to compete and I'm good and I'm going to start winning?
Yeah. I have, so I have kind of like so there's some of these big marathons, depending on which ones you run. Like if you're running like, New York City or or Boston or something like that, like I'm never going to win it.
You're winning internally.
Right.
It's the internal battle, right?
The competitive side of me, like locally, like I do like to compete, but now I'm like a little, this is not an excuse. Like I still believe, cause still feel like I'm getting better all the time. But, you know, locally now, like I'm one of the older guys, you know, when I was in my 20s, when I first got here, it was not. And so there's a lot of like, there's a lot of hot feet out there that can like throw down some quick 5Ks. And I'm kind of like, I like to do a good 5K when I can, and I know what I can do, but I'm definitely more in like the longer stuff nowadays.
Well, and I guess there's seasons for it and ages for it. It seems like you go into the longer stuff, you're also transitioning to the coaching side too.
Yeah, right? Yeah, for sure. I would say like, yeah, like I think what I want to do is just always be my best self. Like when I'm going out to run, when I get in my competitive mode, I'm still just very much competing with myself, with the understanding that like I'm not going to get an OTQ, or I maybe won't win a race. But if there's a chance that I can win a race, like I'm gonna go for it. Like, and I know usually just beforehand, like depending on the race I'm running, if I got a shot.
Yeah.
My marathon PR, I was out in Tunnel Marathon in Washington, much smaller marathon, but you know, still like a lot of people out there.
Still the same distance.
And I was able to that was one where I was able to kind of like throw down, and I got like 4th overall, and I ran my PR, and I was very, very happy with that and proud. And so like, yeah, that's the best way I like to look at it. When it's time to throw down, and I always want to be ready. And that's one thing with the streak is like, I know a lot of people, they're like, I want to peak at this time. I like to just always stay kind of like right below peak, so I can always like turn it on when I want, you know? That's how I like to be with running.
Yeah, it's a great way to look at it. And I think just builds, you know, obviously, like you said earlier, you haven't been injured.
Yeah.
You know, touch wood, you haven't been injured, and keep doing that. But also it's keeping that consistency going. And even if you, like you just said, it's only 10, 15 minutes on off days.
Yeah.
When you don't feel great, get out, run at a slow place, take the dog, or like clear your head, or, you know, like get some fresh air, whatever it is.
Yeah.
It serves such a great purpose outside of the competitive juices. It's like, I'm going to go destroy the red button when it comes up.
Yeah.
Or, you know, whatever it is out at Lake Hefner, or a trail run. I saw you at that trip, Rose Rock.
Rose Rock's awesome.
You know, just like little things like that. And, you know, or if you're pacing someone for the marathon, right? Like,
yeah.
Didn't you pace Kristen this year?
I paced. Yeah. So in Memorial, I ended up running with Jonathan Morris and Christy Coleman.
Yeah.
And so I didn't go into it thinking I was going to pace her, but I was coming off Boston, and then I didn't know who was running the full. But when I found Christy, and after the split, when we split from the half marathon, Christy and Jonathan Morris, my teammates, and I just started like running with them, and I'm like, heck yeah, Christy's trying to throw down, so like I'm just trying to like help her out however I can. And of course, on Klassen, you know, she took off, and like they just dusted me.
Right.
And but like helping her get to, if I helped at all, I think she didn't need my help. I was just there for moral support. But yeah, it was awesome to see. And then me and a couple friends paced to my friend Addie in Chicago in October, and she got under 3 hours, and it's a really good feeling. Pacing is like a really good feeling. If you can help someone, they're still doing it themselves. You know, that's always the case. But
right. Well, and I want to dive into that too, because when I train, I go on my own. I never run with people. Mm-hmm. It's just easier to just go out, and I run at all different times of the day. So it's just like, hey, you know, like it's never like, you know, with a pack or whatever.
Yeah.
However, I have ran a couple of times with friends in races.
Yeah.
And they hadn't been planned. It's just I met them at the start line. I'm like, oh, what's your pace? Oh, it's similar. Oh, let's run together, right?
Yeah.
And I know it helps.
Yeah.
I know it does, right? And I know that, like, if I need to go set a PR or something, I need to go run with someone.
Right.
Because there's, like, that internal mental battle of, like, I'm not letting you run away from me.
Yeah.
Right? Talk a little bit about that. So, like, you know, talk about Addie, and shout out Addie Ryan, who's crushing it. Or Addie Rosecrans.
Officially Addie Rosecrans. Preferably Addie Ryan.
Kept to actor name.
Yeah, shout out Cody too.
Yeah,
Cody Rosecrans.
Cody. Also a military guy.
Yes, sir.
So yeah, let's talk about that. Like, what's that like to go in a group and go pace Addie to see her win? And I remember seeing the photos from that, and like doing her first sub 3 in Chicago. It's just like so cool.
It was man, it's cool. It's like so with Addie, it's like that was like my whole goal was like we just need to get Addie under 3 hours. So like I'm like locked into that, and so I find that like running the pace I was running, which like that's like it's moving for me too, like the pace that she's trying to run, you know? So like, I think it was easy. It was crazy how it works, something in the brain, but like, I felt like running that pace, helping Addie out, it was much easier for me than if I was just doing that pace by myself.
Yeah. What is that mile pace?
For Addie, she would have been like, she ran like I might be a little off. She's like 258 something.
Okay.
But it would have been, I think you're at like 650s. Okay. 650s, I would believe would be the pace for the full. Uh-huh. I'd have to check my math on that, but
I'll do that while you keep storytelling.
The funny part about what you're saying too is when I do see some of my friends like in Boston or something, you know, some of my friends, there is some times where your competitive side kicked in and you have like, that would be a good example where you're asking about the competitive side of it. There are some times where you're at these big races and you see your buddies and you're like, we're around the same pace. So you want to run together, but then you're also in this environment where you're like, if you're not feeling good and you're running with a buddy who's like right around the same pace, it's kind of like, sometimes you're like, I wish they would either drop me or like, I need to get away from them. Like, even if they are your friend and it's helping, like sometimes like my competitive side's like now I want to just lock in and like kind of just, you know, do my own thing. Like, so if I'm not feeling good and they're running just great, I want them to just get away from me, or like, I want to go like, I want to make a move and get away from them, but it's weird how that works. It's nothing personal. It's more like a competitive.
It's an internal competitive thing. You were right. 650 pace is sub 3, which is insane. Like there's a very few amount of people who in the world who can run a sub 3 marathon. Right?
And I remember
it's pretty impressive.
Addie was like, you know, she the buildings in Chicago throw off your paces, like your watch. So like we keep telling her like, don't look at your watch, because she would look at her watch and she thought near the end.
Why do they throw it off?
It's like the way that things ping in the satellites or whatever. Okay. Gotcha. So sometimes your watch will show a pace that's off. You're still clocking the same paces, but like your watch, when you look down at what pace you're going, it'll be off until the end when it computes. But like, I remember being like, telling Addie like stop looking at your watch, because like she looked down and she thinks she's running an 8-minute pace and she's not. She's flying. So she's like, oh, I've dropped to 8 minutes. I don't feel good, and now I'm running 8 minutes, and like this is really bad. I'm like falling apart. I'm like, no, like you're still good. Like we're running just fine. Like we're on the same pace.
How are you tracking it then?
It's more like off a feel, and I can just tell, like you can even tell in those bigger races, like if you're getting passed in waves, then you're dropping off. But you know, she's still running fine. We're staying with everyone, like we're staying with the same group, and like, so, and you know, she crushed it, man. But she was like, she was like, that hurt a lot. But I think it was awesome though. It was really good experience out there. Yeah.
What's your PR?
My PR is in that tunnel marathon in Washington. I ran like I want to say it was like 240, high 243 or low 244.
Dude.
Yeah.
Flying.
Yeah, it was cool.
When was that? How old were you when you did that?
That was August of 21. I went out with Carly we went out with Addie and Cody and Jake Mayer and a couple other from our group. Jeff Beck wasn't on that trip. We had a big group, and then Carly's from out there. Carly from Wahoo is from out in Washington. She was kind of like our host. And I want to give everyone a shout out. Jody, Shane, Kira. I think I got everyone.
Are you part of that Wahoo group or the ultra running group or whatever that is?
Yeah, Wahoo. I definitely,
Wahoo's separate to the ultra thing, right? But there's an ultra race team you guys are part of too, right?
Yeah, well,
they are part of.
They have Wahoo running and then Michelob Ultra.
That's right.
And Wahoo is very involved with Team Ultra.
Okay.
And that's because Carly and Christy are the coaches of Team Ultra. I don't know all the ins and outs but yeah, they coach for Team Ultra, and then they own Wahoo, and that's their thing that they started. And Wahoo is awesome. That's a great group. I try to be involved in as many running groups as I can, and I love Wahoos. Love my Wahoos.
Should have Carly on the podcast and the team.
Yeah, Carly and Christy, man, they're amazing.
Message. Yeah, we'll figure that out. TBD.
We had Carly and Christy on the Beer Hop podcast, and they got great stories, man.
Let's do it. All right, you haven't. You talked about new running. Did we talk about NYC? No, we didn't. What's that like?
NYC is amazing. It is huge. It is the biggest. You know, it is so much bigger feeling than everything else. Like, it's almost big to the point where it's a little stressful. Logistically, it's kind of just wild how they even, like, I feel like riding out to Staten Island to the start takes like 2 hours. You know, like you ride out there, it's like the longest bus ride ever. In Boston, you ride out to Hopkinton, and it's a long bus ride. The New York bus ride is like way longer. And then New York is just brutal. Like, there's certain parts of not brutal, that's not the right word, but it is like, you get very excited at certain areas. Like mile 8 or 9 in Brooklyn is like so lit, like it is so hype that like if I'll look down and I'm like, all of a sudden I'm like, dude, I'm running like a 5:15.
I am flying right
Yeah,
now.
I'm like, this is not good. Like, you know, it's a mile 8, you're running like a 5:15 pace, and I'm like, I'm not fit to do this. Like, this is not a good.
Right.
I need to rein it in.
This
I need
is
to
going
rein
to
it
really
in.
hurt me at mile 16, 17, 18 later.
Yeah. But it is amazing. New York is amazing. I still love Boston's my favorite of all the major ones I've run. Boston to me just is like. I know some people there's always the debate like Boston or New York or like Boston or Chicago, but Boston to me just the heritage and the way the city treats the marathon with such reverence is like New York is so massive that even though the marathon is humongous, the city there's people in New York that don't even know what's going on in certain areas, you know. In Boston, like the whole city is like all about that. Like the whole day is devoted to this race. Everyone in the city treats you like a celebrity. Like no matter who you are, if you're running, it's like they're gonna treat you like you're this. I don't know. Boston just has some magic to it to me. But
April 15th, so it's coming up.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
And you're training for it.
Mm-hmm.
Are you going out with a big group again?
We're going out. Definitely a lot of people from Oklahoma going always. But I'm going by myself. But like I'll get up with all like the Oklahoma crew out there.
Yeah.
Lots from Red Coyote Racing. There's lots from Wahoo. Lots from my like smaller crew. But yeah, Oklahoma always has a great showing out in Boston.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What with you kind of being back at Red Coyote and back in the mix and you know there every day sort of and just kind of being fully and a lot more involved than you have been when you were at Ment, going out to Boston. I mean, is this a personal trip for you? Is like a more? Yeah,
definitely. Yeah, not work related, personal trip. You know, I'm still repping my race team, but like definitely just just for me. But, yeah.
And this, do you have any goals for it, or just kind of just?
With Boston every year. Boston's the only race that I will consider other than Memorial but Boston's really the only race that I'll go to every year as long as I can make it. I'll keep going.
What's the cutoff time now for your age?
When I turned 35, I got that little extra 5 minutes, and that's been nice because I've been getting like faster too. And then as I've been getting faster, I got 5 extra minutes, and now I got that gap like a lot more open. Yeah. But I want to every year I go to Boston, I just want to run faster than the year before. I just want to run my fastest Boston time. So a marathon PR would be ideal. So if I could hit like low 240s, I'd be super stoked. Yeah. But B goal would just be like run my fastest Boston time, which would be like right under 250, and I would be happy with that. Yeah.
You're not speaking the same language as me right now. I mean, I know running's the same for everybody, but you're running a lot fast. I mean, I'm like, I obviously have my race coming up soon, and I'm interested to see, and it's different, right? Because it's like 50K or whatever, and people ask me like, oh my God, it's an ultra. It's the ultra world is so different to the marathon world,
right?
Because the marathon world is like, what's your time?
Yeah.
Right? And everyone's really focused around that, and it's like clean type, like clean cut running, dominate.
Yep.
The ultra world is just like a bunch of just grungy, grizzly people who just want to go be in the countryside for all day.
Yeah.
Doesn't care how long it takes you. It's running up and down hills, and this one's in Stillwater, and it's just like,
dude, Mid-South is awesome.
I love that.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I love that I don't like people, but I'm focused on my time because it's back to an internal battle and you have internal goals. The guy who won it last year, I think, ran it in like 3.5 hours.
Was it Eric London? Or
maybe, yeah. Like just
I think Noah won it one year.
Pace.
Yeah.
I'm crossing the halfway point of that, but it's fun to do, and not that I won't do a half marathon or do the Memorial Marathon, but it's just for me who isn't a runner growing up to go do like the ultra world, and it's a few more miles than it's 31 miles, right?
Yeah.
So it's not like a massive significant Sarah Akins, who does like 50 mile and 100 mile races. Yeah. That is insane.
Yeah.
And maybe one day I'll have screws loose in my head and I can think I'll go full David Goggins and do that. But it's so different to compare those worlds.
Yeah,
right?
and I'm with you, Mike. I actually prefer the ultra world, as you call it. Like that's where I would actually like to be. I'd actually like to get more into that. As you get older,
you'll go into that.
Yeah, and right now for me, sometimes it's just like access and but like I would like to get way more involved in that. And that's why like back when I wanted to move to Colorado, like I would just like to have I would like to only do that. If I could only run trail, I would prefer that.
Yeah.
But ultras, man, it's a different beast entirely, and it's a way more chill crowd. The first ultra I did, Midnight Madness, Tulsa 50 miler. and I didn't know what I was getting into. And I remember going through like the first 20 feeling like pretty good, and then like 20 to 30 felt like total shit. Like, what did I do? And then like the last 10 miles, I started to kind of rally back. But those things, man, is such a different beast. And we got a lot of like awesome ultra runners coming up around here. Like you said, Sarah, Nicole, obviously Camille.
Camille's a legend.
Yeah. I know, like we used to have like I don't know if he still runs, but Nick Seymour, Matt Riley, those guys are like, I love the ultra scene.
It's just such like, when you did that 50 miler, did you go to just such like, and I'd be interested to know your answer on this. Like when you're like PRing your marathon, like obviously there you go to the pain cave. It's a dark place. But is it a different dark place to where you went when you're in the 50? Yeah,
the body is way more just like the pain. The pain is like it's a much more dull pain. You don't see you have so much longer to go in the marathon, even as long as the marathon is, which is crazy. That's why ultras are so crazy. It's like marathon is so long, but the marathon you're really pushing that. You get into that red line pain, but like and you know that it's going to come to an end. But like that ultras, you don't really redline, but you have this like broken down pain that you just have to like deal with. It's like you're not redlining, you're already broke. Like, so you're just like, you're just running broke. That's how I would describe it for me anyways.
That makes a lot of sense. I guess, so the marathon pace is like a lung pain. Deep breath, like I'm pushing and gas, whatever. The ultra pain is like my body is done. I've been running I remember constantly for 4 hours or 5 hours or 6, however long it takes you. Like I'm done. It's brutal. I remember we did there's a race around here called 24 the Hard Way. And I did it 3 years, but 1 year I did it with my friend Eepson, and it was Eepson's first time, so he was going for 100. And you run as many laps as you can in 24 hours. So it's not like a 100 miler. It's more like 24-hour road race would be like, how far can you go in 24 hours? This is just laps.
It's just 1 mile around Bluff Creek on the paved loop. And dude, it used to be like that event, man. Like, I think COVID kind of.
Do they still do it now?
I think they still do it, but it's so much smaller.
I need to bring that back.
It was really growing in a cool way, because it was really growing into this way where it was almost like this little festival. Like, you had that loop in Bluff Creek.
Just camp out.
But I had a tent, and people had tents up, and then there was like a center part with the aid station that was every lap, and they had music, and it was like this cool scene that I felt like you could really grow, and it could really grow into this like really special thing. And it is really special still. I just got, like everything, it just got tattered by COVID. But I remember my buddy Eepson, like he was shout out Eepson. He it was late, and he's like, dude, I want to take like a little nap. I was like, dude, don't go in your tent. If you lay down, man, like you're smoked. And so he laid down, and he stayed in there. Like he wanted to stay in there for like 30 minutes or something, but it ended up being like an hour or two. And I remember when he came out, and we're running around Bluff Creek, and it was like 3 a.m, and it was foggy, and I look up, and Eepson, he just looked like all I see is his silhouette from like, I was coming up on him from like probably 500 meters from the back, and I just see like a silhouette, and he looks like a zombie. He's got like his hood on, like, and he's just kind of like he's doing this real slow like run with no arm movement hardly, and I was like, oh man, like poor guy. It was crazy.
Did you stay up for the whole 20? Did you take a cat nap, or did you stay up for the whole?
No, I stayed up, man. I was trying to win. I didn't end up winning, which is crazy to run that far and be short. I think I was short. Like my buddy beat me by like 2 miles at the end, but he I ran that's the farthest I've ever run, so that was cool. A little victory in itself.
Dude, but the 24-hour stuff is just like to mentally get your headspace around, like I'm gonna stay up and I'm gonna run laps.
Like, so we're you know that Bluff Creek loop, Mike?
Maybe
it's just like a paved greenway loop sort of, and it's like a little right around a mile. But dude, I was so tired. I'm running, I'm so tired, and you start to like hallucinate a little bit, to where like I'd come up and you'd almost be dozing off while running, and I would come up and I would be like, I think I missed that stop sign where I was supposed to turn right, because if you don't turn, and I was like, I don't know if I'm on the loop anymore, and you're just going through these weird sort of like
such a delirious place.
Delirious, man. You're like really depleted, even if you're eating and stuff. It's like you can't get enough, and
Have you thought about doing that David Goggins 48 hours? Have you done that yet? The 4 miles every 4 hours for 48 hours.
I definitely want to do that. Jake, my buddy Jake Bostwick has done that several times.
Yeah.
They have it's 4 miles, and then you take a break.
Every 4 hours.
That's awesome.
For a weekend before 4 hours. But it's cool because Dave Goggins does it with everybody. He's like, this is the weekend we're going to do it. I think he starts at like 4 a.m.
He almost does like a live stream.
Sort of, yeah. And my brother's done it, and he's like, it's not that it's hard physically, it's just mentally, just like, because for you get up, you run 4 miles in 30 minutes or whatever it is, like, it's every 4 hours. That doesn't seem hard.
Yeah.
But just like every 4 hours for 48 hours.
Yeah, you got to just do it again.
And he's like, it wasn't that. It's just.
It's crazy how much that parallels, how much that, like something like that, how much that parallels like everyday life.
Right.
And the monotony of it. I think that's the hard thing to wrap around. If you're doing that, even though it's 48 hours, just 2 days, there's this monotony aspect to it that is like really hard to wrap your mind around. And that's like one of the craziest things about like life in general. It's just like, how do you find meaning in the monotonous, right? Like, how do you find your purpose and like how do you stay motivated in monotonous, like routine,
I just Googled it. It's coming up. It's actually March 20, starting Friday, March 22nd at 8 p.m.
You gonna do it?
Sure. I just committed to it.
Is that on a Thursday or Friday?
Friday. So it's in 2 weeks.
Dude, I'll do it.
Right? So so March 20, so 3/22/24. So yeah, it's a Friday. You start at 8 p.m.
Yeah.
Finish Sunday at 8 p.m.
Let's go, man. Let's do it.
Okay.
That's cool, man.
I knew it was coming up. So I was like, I swear it's in March.
Yeah.
8 p.m. Okay. Every 4. Yeah, you just set your alarm, right?
Yeah.
Just like,
that's, man, I said, let's go for it.
All right.
Yeah. Is it like a virtual thing or like it's just for honor, bragging rights?
I think it's just like, obviously if you're around, you live close to people, you can probably get together. I mean, my brother had a friend, him and his friends stayed at my parents' house.
Yeah.
And they just did together.
That's fun, man.
For 48 hours, you just hang out.
I would like it.
That would be cool to get like a group of buddies.
That would
together,
be sick. Yeah,
right?
you do almost like a camp out experience, and then you're chilling. You're chilling in the 4 hour gap. You can take a nap, or you can just chill and drink some beers.
We
or
got
like
2 weeks to plan this. Let's put it together.
That'd be awesome, man.
Get some people in to do it. All right, finishing up.
Yeah.
Let's talk about your dogs.
Oh man, where do I begin?
Yeah.
What do you want to know about them?
I mean,
the majestic animals, the panda foxes, Siberian Huskies, Sib sisters.
Yeah.
No, these are my girls, Rocky and Zazie. Probably we walk around this neighborhood a lot, right around the Hall of Fame here. But they're incredible. Rocky's my older girl. I've had her since right after my first deployment. I got her. She is like very stoic. She loves people. She's sweet. She doesn't make any noise. She sheds like a maniac. I save her shedding hair in a little trash bag. I'm gonna make something one day with it. Zazie is my younger one. I got her at the pandemic when it kicked off, and she is like got a really silly personality. She's really childish. She loves Rocky a lot. She's like obsessed with Rocky and only wants to play with Rocky. And she's like my shadow at the apartment. She follows me around everywhere. But man, it's such a rewarding thing to have dogs, man. Like I swear, I don't know what I would have done without Rocky all these years. And then Rocky was so great that I was like, I want to have another one. So I adopted Zazie from OK Humane, and yeah, dude, they're like the best. They're like the best part of my life for sure.
Dogs are I don't know where I'd be without mine.
Yeah, man.
Greatest things ever.
Do you take her to Barquet? I think I asked you that on the pod.
No. Yeah. So I just started. Shout out to the Doghouse OKC. They did have a spot in Midtown, which just closed. They have a spot right next to Lake Hefner, and I've started taking them there. And they're getting they've only socialized with themselves. Once they're 7 and 4, about to be 7 and 5, and so they've only socialized around themselves. They're kind of super timid, but slowly they've been going to the Doghouse.
Cool.
It's been amazing to have them with Sherry at the Doghouse, and they've taken full care of them. And the thing I love is like they separate them by temperament.
Yeah.
So once we get through, right? So like Sebi's the big one. She's like among all these young little docile, like chill dogs.
Yeah.
She's perfect for her. Once I think they'll get her more like used to it. Greg's has all the energy in the world and she just wants to jump around, but they want to be together. Like they've got a lot of like...
They're best friends.
They're best friends, right? And which makes a lot of sense. So I think it would be great to like get through like a solid probably 6 months of them just going 3 times a week or staying the night or whatever it is, just to get them used to it.
Yeah.
And then I'll be like, let's go to Barquet.
Let's go to Barquet, man.
But I also like, because they haven't socialized much, and I walk them twice a day, but it's obviously on the leash. Like, I don't know if they'd listen to me if I'm like, hey, come here.
At Barquet?
They're just like,
oh yeah, man, it's cool.
You know, like I need to figure that out.
They got those they got people there at Barquet that are like helping with all that. Like I think they do really well at like even a dog that's like new or like more timid. They Rocky and Zazie there, they kind of play with other dogs, but really do their own thing. Yeah. They want to only play with each other and they sniff everything. But yeah, some dogs are in there just going full throttle playing. But I think there's enough space to where the dogs, I feel like most dogs could just like fit in just fine because they can always go to a different part of the park or whatever. Yeah. That place is awesome. Yeah.
Dogs are awesome. All right, finishing up, last question, because you said you love movies. Top 5 movies right now.
Oh man, top 5 recent movies.
Whatever you want, however you want to take it.
My top 5 movies
ever. That's a very
ever?
open-ended question. You could do a top 10 movies.
Okay, so I saw Dune 2. I saw Dune 2. Dune 2 is amazing.
Okay.
Super awesome. Visually stunning. Just a great movie. Great sequel. Okay. Very long. I can't wait to watch it again. But it's like Lord of the Rings. Like, it's very good, but like, you could get more from watching it, or like watching Game of Thrones. Like, you could get more from watching it a second time. Yeah. But I really enjoyed that one. My favorite movie all time, I like, this is a funny one, but like, I like Silver Linings Playbook.
Yes.
I like Gangs of New York. And those are probably my top 2 favorite that I kind of juggle. And then I really like Fantastic Mr. Fox, stop motion animation, Wes Anderson and Roald Dahl. Like that's like the best. Like I remember that's like that's like a holy trinity for me. Like, but yeah, recently I would say like Dune 2 has been incredible. There's a lot of really bad movies coming out right now. Also, I got to say one of my favorite movies, I got to give this a shout, is Con Air.
I was about to say, what's your favorite Air Force movie?
Yeah, Con Air is like airplane movie necessarily. And I'll give a shout out to, aside from the Beer Hop podcast, I did recently start with my friend Tony in New York. We have a Con Pair podcast. Right. And this is a movie podcast where we just compare movies to Con Air. Okay. So we'll, so far we're coming up, we'll probably record our 3rd episode this week, but we've done, the first episode was comparing it to Air Force One. The second episode, we compared it to the movie Ghost Rider. Okay. And then
such a bad movie, that is, right? With Amber Heard and
oh my God, it's terrible, bro.
Such a
terrible
movie. I remember that.
Yeah, so oh my gosh, yeah. I'll say right now, most recent, Dune 2 has been the best movie I've seen in a while, and then all-time favorite, Silver Linings Playbook. Okay. And dude, there's so many movies, man. It's hard for me to.
Well, yeah. There's a few good ones coming out. The new Tom Hardy one coming out called The Bike Riders looks really good. It makes me want to go buy an Indian motorcycle.
Heck yeah.
I saw the new Bob Marley movie recently.
Oh, I need to see one.
Very good.
Okay.
But also, I wish, and this is probably the age coming out with me, and the person I saw it with, 30 seconds in, was like, "Can we get subtitles? Because I can't understand a word." Oh. When it comes out, I think on Netflix or wherever it comes out, watching it with subtitles will be a different experience. Great movie though. Yeah. And what a soundtrack! Like such an iconic soundtrack.
Oh, that's another one, Mike. Speaking of soundtrack, the Iron Claw. Iron Claw was an exceptional movie as well.
I haven't seen that.
The Iron Claw is about wrestling. I'm a diehard wrestling fan as well.
Is that with Miles Teller?
Not Miles Teller. It's got
Yes, I know you talk about Zac
Efron. Yes. Yeah. Dude, they have an amazing like the main movie's soundtrack is great. They have a song on there that is amazing called "I Want to Live This Way Forever." But the movie is all about this wrestling family. It's based off a true story. Phenomenal movie. Also really good recent movie that just came out. So check that one out.
For people listening, check that out. Where do people find you on Instagram?
I'm on Instagram. I'm John G and Rock, JohnGignac. ANDROC. That's me and my girl Rocky. Zazi's on there too, but she's not featured in the profile handle. Yeah.
Sick. Well, mate, it's been a pleasure to chat. Thanks for coming on. It's been a long time coming. And
heck yeah, man.
Cheers to a successful David Goggins 4x40.
Let's get it. Let's get it.
In 2 weeks.
Yeah. So. Mike, thanks for having me on, man. This has been awesome. Appreciate you, sir.
Awesome. For people listening, we'll catch you next episode. Cheers.
Godspeed.
Hope you guys enjoyed that great episode. Thank you so much for listening. As always, huge shout out to our sponsors, the Oklahoma Hall of Fame, sharing Oklahoma story through its people since 1927. For more information on the Oklahoma Hall of Fame, go to www.oklahomahof.com and follow them on Instagram for daily updates at oklahomahof. Our other sponsor, the Chickasaw Nation, amazing sponsor. They do amazing things for the state, and they're always sponsoring something in Oklahoma. They're a huge supporter of Oklahoma, and without their support, we wouldn't be able to do what we do. And our third sponsor is Diffie Ford Lincoln down in El Reno. Now, this one makes me so happy because these guys are great friends of mine, play a lot of golf together. I've bought my cars from them, do most of my oil changes down there, have a cup of coffee, hang out down in El Reno. It's a good spot to go. And not only are they great friends, but they provide a great service. So for over 60 years, third generation family owned Oklahoma business down in El Reno. They're also in Bethany as well. So people in the Bethany area know the Diffies really well. But if you're looking for anything new, used, Ford, Lincoln, or whatever, I'm sure they could find anything you want. Check them out, diffieford.net, and then on Instagram at diffiefordlincoln.
This episode is presented by Citizens Bank of Edmond. Citizens Bank of Edmond has been serving Edmond since 1901. They pride themselves on investing in the community and are here for all your personal and business banking needs. For more information, go to mycitizens.bank and follow them on Instagram at citizensedmond, as well as go bank there, because I bank there too. It's been a fantastic personal experience for me. I've had my podcast account there now, my podcast business account there now for 4 years now, I think, and it's been fantastic. So definitely worth your time. They're a great group of people, and they're always there to answer the phone when I forget my password, because I seem to forget it daily. So yeah, go to Citizens Edmond and check them out. It's been awesome.
Thank you for listening. We are inspired by those around us and hope that you are too. Make sure you subscribe to this podcast on your favorite podcast platform and leave us a review so we can keep telling your stories. For more great Oklahoma content, follow This Is Oklahoma on Facebook and Instagram.